What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. So as most of you guys know, this is my 2020 Kawasaki ZX6R, and for a little bit I've been chasing some vibrations. So whenever I'm riding, doing probably 150, 180, and I try to brake, I get some severe vibration out in the front area over here. This was before I installed the new tires. I had initially assumed that it was because my tires were really bad, and that's why that was happening. After installing the new tires, breaking it in, going for a ride, I was still experiencing the same symptoms. So I started doing a whole bunch of research, and today I'm going to show you exactly the things I did to my motorcycle and how I was able to resolve this problem, so you can do it if you're having the same problem too. So without much more talking, let's dive right into it and show you guys what I found out. Alright, first off, I started by working up top here. So this is the top 333, the yoke, whatever you want to call it. I removed the cell phone mount and I torqued down this back to spec, just because I had recently messed with this and I was just wanting to make sure that wasn't the cause of the problem. So I removed all of this, I torqued it down to spec. That's all good. That did not solve the problem, unfortunately. Which brings me on to the next part. So over here is the front wheel. This is exactly the area where I was experiencing that problem. It was mostly in the front. Whenever I applied the front brakes, there would be lots of shudder, vibration, whatever you want to call it, up front here. So as you can tell, my wheel is free flowing. There's no problem over there. So as I started to dive in more, I do realize that this tire was recently mounted, right? And I removed the wheel with the front wheel and I reinstalled everything following the manufacturer's specification. I used a service manual that is readily available. I'm going to have a link in the description. It's probably going to be the same thing for most motorcycles out there, and I followed it to a T. Okay, and doing that, it did relieve some of that vibration I was referring to. Okay, so after a whole bunch of investigation, I determined the problem was coming from the brakes. So I'm going to break this loose. I'm going to show you exactly what I did on the other side and how it really helped. To remove the brake caliper is a 12mm bolt. They're both identical, so you can just lay that down. Disconnect the wheel speed sensor and just let it slide down. So upon initial inspection, everything looks okay, but if you look closely, you would see how the pistons on this side is sticking out less compared to the other side, which is the exact same thing I noticed on the other side. So I'm not sure why that is. It's more than likely because of build-up, from the brake dust and gunk and whatever. I noticed it on the other side. So what I did to resolve that, I removed the brake parts from the calipers, and I completely cleaned out the pistons to make sure that there was nothing interfering with the way the pistons slide in or out of the brake caliper. Okay, so right now we're going to repeat the same process. We're going to break this loose, remove that brake pad, and clean out that caliper and the pistons. There are just two bolts over here to break this loose. And then we'll just slide the pins out. A quick tip, if you've never done this before, it is a good idea to take pictures of exactly how this goes back together. So when you go back to install it, it's nice and smooth and you have no problem. I'm gonna bring you guys in closer. You can see all the build up in that caliper. I'm gonna clean it all out and you guys are gonna see what the difference is. And to clean this, we're just using some brake clean and an old toothbrush. We're gonna get in there and try to clean as much debris, as much brake dust, gunk out of there, get it nice and clean, and reinstall everything again.
Ten years later.
Alright guys, as you can see, it's properly cleaned now, looks much better, and even the retainer is cleaned, or the other brake hardware, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to go ahead and reinstall all of this real quick, put it back together, and I'm going to show you the next thing that I did to this motorcycle. Alright guys, so as you can see, both calipers are fully installed, and just by doing that you can see how much longer it actually rotates compared to before. There was lots of build up in the caliper, just lots of dirt, brake dust, whatever you call it. There was lots of that in there, and I believe that was making the pistons stick out a little bit more than it usually would. So now that it's all clean, it's way more free flowing compared to before. That's an improvement. It's always a good idea to always service your brakes every so often, at least 2 times in a season or in a year, I would say. Alright, the next step to achieving the perfect result, we're going to work on the axle alignment. Alright, so first we're going to break the pinch bolt. I already broke it loose. I'm going to break that loose. You don't need to bring it out the whole way, just break it loose. And next, using this axle removal tool, we're going to remove the axle. Alright, now so with this axle sitting out, the first thing to do is to make sure it's seated in properly, right? You don't want to cross thread it and ruin the threads on the other fork, because that would be a nightmare. So when you make sure it's seated properly, you gradually start to lock it in place, just like so. Alright, it needs to go in freely. If you feel any tension before it's fully seated, you bring it back and make sure it's right in place, or it's in the right place. So loosely, just snug it up a little bit. That is good. Alright, so as you can see, the axle is fully seated in place. At this point, it's a good time to torque it down. For this particular motorcycle, it's 93 foot-pounds. I'm going to do that real quick. I have my torque wrench here. That is good. Right now, so with the axle bolts fully secured in place, we're going to jump over to the brake calipers again. And now we just want to make sure that the bolts are just in place, nice and snug. Not tight, just hand tight like this. We need to have some play in them, like that, okay? With that little bit of play, we're gonna sit the brake pads properly on the rotor. And so we have a perfect stance. So with this setup, we're currently gonna hold down the brake, all right? We're gonna spin the tires, hold down the brake a few times like this. And with the brake lever depressed in, we're going to completely secure this, all right? When you begin this, you do not want to let go of the brake lever. Snug it up, like so. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side while holding the brake lever. Just like that. At this point, we're going to get rid of the front mount. And we're going to come right to the middle of the motorcycle and push in a few times so we can properly sit the axle. Just like that. And now we're going to completely secure this. Again, I'm going to torque the brake calipers. And just like that, we've completed the brake service. We've cleaned it all out, so it's nice and dandy. And we've also realigned the axle, right? So before you go out for a ride, you want to make sure that you've torqued everything down, make sure everything is secure. You want to make sure that your brakes actually do work. Then you can go out and try it out. For me, this actually works for me, and that's why I'm putting this video out there, just in case someone else has this kind of issue. Before you go out and spend money buying new rotors and brake pads, whatever, try it out, see if it works for you. And if it does, you're all good. On that note, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate the love and support from every one of you. And I'll be seeing you guys on the next one.